Hi there and welcome. In this video, we'll walk you through how to use GERANIUM, a powerful decision support tool designed to help scientists, planners, managers, and policymakers make smart, informed decisions for marine conservation in the Arctic. The Arctic is one of the most rapidly changing regions on Earth. With growing pressures from climate change and industrial activity, it's more important now than ever to make decisions that include effective conservation so that human use of the region is sustainable. If you want to know more about what geranium is, check out the video linked below. Today, we are going to learn how to use geranium. So what do we actually need to make good decisions for conservation and sustainable use in the Arctic? We need to know three things. First, what biodiversity exists in the Arctic Ocean and where. Second, how might industrial-scale human activities like shipping or oil exploration affect biodiversity? And third, where and when are these activities happening now and in the future? That's where geranium comes in. Geranium is part of a broader framework called ArcNet, which is a science-based blueprint for establishing a network of protected and conserved areas across the Arctic Ocean and surrounding seas. The ArcNet framework includes a map of priority areas for conservation, a database of conservation features, a guide, and a scientific paper outlining the approach and tools to support implementation. It is designed to be transparent and inclusive. It helps governments, indigenous communities, industries, and conservationists work together to decide where to establish conservation measures. Within ArcNet, components of biodiversity such as species, habitats, and biological communities are referred to as conservation features. To learn more about ArcNet, you can check out this link. Geranium is one of the tools under ArcNet and helps answer important questions for establishing conservation measures and marine spatial planning, such as what biodiversity exists in the marine Arctic Ocean as a whole or in a certain area of interest, and how is it distributed? What and where do industrial activities occur now and in the future? How can these activities impact Arctic marine life, and how concerning are they for biodiversity conservation in each location? How can we conserve these features and manage industrial activities, and where will conservation efforts have the largest impact? To get started, head to Geranium's website where you will see its own page. Here you can read more about geranium. If you want to explore some quick references to geranium's technical terms, we recommend opening the overview guide by clicking here. If you want to create your own personal workspace, you can click on Request Pin to get started. You can read more about this in the user manual by clicking here. But for now, let's jump right in by clicking on Start Exploring. Once the platform loads, you'll see the geranium dashboard. On the left is the interactive map. On the right, you'll find different settings to customize and execute your analysis. Let's go over them briefly. Projection allows you to choose what region of the Arctic you want the map to center on. For example, Canada, Europe, or the Bering Sea. Spatial Query allows you to select specific areas you want to focus your analysis on. These include existing protected areas, areas identified as priority areas for conservation through the ArcNet framework, large marine ecosystems, or even custom areas that you draw or upload yourself. This feature is particularly useful as you can either carry out a pan-Arctic-wide analysis or focus on a very specific area or groups of areas by selecting them on the map to your left. For example, if you want to focus your analysis on an existing protected area, such as the National Park in Northeast Greenland, you can do this by simply selecting it on the map. For a pan-Arctic analysis, you simply start without selecting any area on the map. Activity Group allows you to pick from 6 groups of industrial activities, such as fishing or shipping, and then narrow down to specific ones like offshore wind farms or tanker operations in the industrial activities field. Conservation Feature Groups allows you to pick from 8 main groups of conservation features and then further narrow it down to specific species and communities, or even further to their habitats and biotas. These fields allow you to choose the kind of Arctic biodiversity, species, or habitat you want to focus on, such as polar bears, whales, or benthic communities. Under individual conservation features, you can further narrow it down and pick a specific population of a species in a particular habitat. For example, it allows you to focus on the feeding grounds of the Pacific walrus population. Each of these individual conservation features has a unique conservation feature ID. Finally, Two other fields allow you to add additional analysis parameters. You can select the time of year for your analysis here. By default, Geranium considers the whole year for analysis. The analysis type menu allows you to choose between two different types of analysis. Choose a conservation concern option to see where possible industrial activities cause concern for the conservation of biodiversity. Choose the overall industrial pressure option to help you understand where industrial activities pose risk for biodiversity, which either occur now or are planned for the future. Once you've selected your parameters, you can execute your analysis and view the results by clicking on these colored buttons. Depending on your selection of areas in the Spatial Query tab, the names on these buttons will change accordingly. By clicking on an Overview button, you'll get a summary view of 3 panels. The left panel shows a map of your area of interest depending on your selection. The top right panel shows the relative overall concern level raised by different industrial activities for the selected area or the entire Arctic. The bottom right panel displays how these concerns vary by each month. These graphs are interactive. The toolbars and options on each panel allows you to zoom in, adjust axes, hover over items to see full descriptions, or download the plots as PNGs. You can also compare different data by clicking here. By clicking on the Details button, a Conservation Concerns table will show up. You can also look here, directly from the home page. Here you'll see the list of conservation features for the selected area with their unique IDs and level of concern linked to each industrial activity in that location. Each industry is listed using short codes, but if you hover over them, you'll see the full name. You can sort the conservation features by concern level for each of the industries by clicking on the small arrows next to the industrial activity code. And finally, you can use the All Industrial Activities or All Conservation Features button to see a full list of the interactions in the area depending on your selection. By clicking on a specific conservation feature and an industrial activity, additional detail and overview buttons will show up at the bottom. You can click on them to get a deeper insight into your selection. If you want to save your results, click the Download Assessment Results button to export the entire assessment as an Excel file, or click on Instant Report to see the full report in a docx file. You can also download the maps generated on the left panel as a GeoTIFF file to work with in your project. Now we will try to understand how you can use Geranium through a Pan-Arctic example of priority areas of conservation in the Arctic. Let's look at what those concern levels actually mean. Each row shows a relation between a conservation feature, for example, a particular species, and a range of industrial activities. The colors tell you the level of concern for the long-term conservation of a feature when exposed to a particular activity. Yellow and M represent minor concern, which means that the risks are low and manageable. Brown and N is notable concern, highlighting that the risks need special management. Red and S is a significant concern, which tells us that the risks are high and not manageable with the available measures. NA means that the activity cannot realistically overlap with a feature or occur in an area. A color gradient within a box indicates that the concern levels vary between seasons. For example, here you can see that the exposure of the beluga whale summer grounds in Baffin Bay to underwater oil and gas pipelines results in a significant level of concern. Here, as it is too deep, no seaweed growing takes place in this area, and it is marked as NA. So how can you actually use this information? One key way is by using Geranium to prioritize engagement, which means figuring out where in the Arctic to focus on conversations, planning, and action. For example, the tool highlights hotspots, which are places where possible, ongoing, or planned industrial activity overlaps. To identify these areas, Geranium uses two key indexes, the SCP and the OIPP. You can find the technical definition of these and all other indexes used in Geranium in the User Manual section, which you will find by clicking here. The SCPU stands for Significant Concern Per Area Unit. Simply put, it shows you where potential industrial activities that can realistically occur in an area pose a high risk to the biodiversity in the area that's difficult to mitigate with available measures. This statistic is most useful for informing where to take precautionary action. It allows you to plan in time and be proactive, as establishing conservation measures can take a long time while industrial activities are expanding rapidly. OIPP, on the other hand, stands for Overall Industrial Pressure per Area Unit. This simply tells you where the risk to biodiversity from industrial activities has already been realized in an area and at which scale. It helps pinpoint where biodiversity is most impacted by planned or ongoing industrial activities. This perspective supports the prioritization of urgent conservation action. Pressures from industrial activity are putting biodiversity at risk as we speak, or will do so shortly, and geranium can also support discussions and decisions on how to address them. Together, these two indexes allow you to see both sides of the coin, where biodiversity is most susceptible and where it's most exposed. The different concern and risk index layers used in geranium can also be displayed on the map by clicking on the checkboxes at the bottom of the map panel. This is one of the features that makes geranium unique. It helps you to understand these concerns and risks in a spatial context, including their distribution within and beyond the area you're interested in. Let's look at a Pan-Arctic example using all conservation features and all industrial activities. The map on the left shows areas of significant concern using the SCP index. This index highlights the areas where the largest number of conservation features are most susceptible to the risks from industrial activities. It also shows the potential distribution of 33 industrial activities in the region and where they could overlap with biodiversity and pose a threat to it. This gives us a clear hotspot where proactive and long-term Arctic conservation attention should be focused. Now let's switch to the OIPP index, which helps you identify areas with current or upcoming risks. The map you see now should show actual and planned industrial activities. In these areas where industrial activities already exist or are imminent and the level of pressure is high, urgent action needs to be taken, such as reviewing management plans or establishing conservation areas. It is important to note that for the 2030 projection of industrial activities, data is only available for infrastructure and mining. This means that the difference between time periods may not appear very pronounced at the Pan-Arctic level, but may appear better when investigating more locally. In the end, geranium gives you a clear picture of where the conservation concern is, where pressure is building, and where the risks from pressure are rising. With this information, you can make better, more informed choices about where to act and why and with whom. It's designed to encourage open and informed collaboration across sectors and communities. To sum it all up, geranium helps make conservation decisions transparent and systematic. It supports collaboration and engagement between different rights holders and stakeholders, helps identify effective conservation actions, and supports efforts to invest in the right places with the right partners. It's not here to solve every problem, but helps narrow them down, clarify them, and guide the way forward. And remember, geranium doesn't contain all data at the most granular level, but it does excel at showing how the data can be applied to help us plan and take action. Its strength is in providing a clear Pan-Arctic perspective to support long-term responsible marine conservation. Thanks for watching, and we hope geranium helps you take your conservation work to the next level. To learn more about how you can use geranium for your analysis, check out our other tutorial videos on how to explore an area, a species, and an industry.